The movie starts with the emergence of a fissure beneath the Pacific Ocean that connects to an alternate dimension. A massive creature emerges from the fissure and causes significant destruction in San Francisco. The creature is ultimately defeated by the military forces after several days of fierce fighting, resulting in numerous casualties. Initially, what appeared to be an isolated assault gradually escalated as additional creatures emerged from the fissure and launched attacks on coastal cities across the Pacific. In response, the world collaborates to repel the invaders and devise the Jaeger program, a sequence of enormous mechanical creatures designed to thwart the monsters. The original endeavor of assigning a single pilot per Jaeger proves ineffective, as the test subjects cannot endure the physical and emotional demands of operating such a colossal machine alone. Consequently, it is decided that 2 pilots will jointly operate each Jaeger, with their thoughts and memories linked together in the drift, achieving synchronization to manipulate the massive machines. The Jaegers start their work and begin to reverse the situation by defeating the creatures referred to as kaiju. Eventually, the Jaegers and their pilots become the talk of the town, with the world fascinated by them. They even become famous, and their merchandise is produced. Additionally, the remains of the kaiju soon become a valuable black market commodity, with their parts being sold for different purposes, including medicinal ones, although many of their bodily fluids are hazardous and contribute to severe environmental contamination. However, despite the apparent progress in the war, the kaiju's assaults become more savage and frequent. One of the renowned Jaeger duos, Raleigh Beckett and his elder brother Yancey, who had earned a reputation for defeating kaijus, became celebrated heroes in the year 2020, 7 years after the opening of the fissure. These skilled pilots operated the Jaeger, named Gypsy Danger, and were assigned to intercept a Category 3 kaiju, which was headed towards Anchorage. This monstrous creature was bigger and more potent than its previous Category 3 counterparts and posed a significant challenge to the team. Even though the Becketts detected a fishing boat in the trajectory of the attack on their monitors, they were instructed to prioritize protecting Anchorage. Despite disobeying orders, the duo manages to rescue the fishing boat. However, they are ruthlessly attacked by the kaiju, which have a head specifically designed to penetrate the chest of Gypsy Danger. During the fierce combat, the kaiju rips off Gypsy Danger's left arm and tears a piece of its helmet, causing Yancey's death. With sheer determination, Raleigh pilots the Jaeger alone and defeats the monster using its massive plasma blaster. Later, Raleigh takes the Jaeger to a secluded beach where it ultimately collapses. Due to the drift technology, Jaeger pilots endure the same injuries as their machines. Exhausted and emotionally shattered by the loss of his brother, Raleigh emerges from the wreckage and collapses on the beach, bearing the scars of the battle. Following the attack, Raleigh departs from the Jaeger program and seeks employment opportunities wherever possible. Eventually, 5 years later, he secures a job as a construction worker on the western coast of the United States. His duties involve contributing to the construction of a massive coastal wall, which is intended to prevent kaiju intrusion. Since Raleigh was part of the Jaeger program 5 years ago, several countries have demanded its termination because of the rising number of Jaeger pilot casualties resulting from the increased kaiju attacks, as well as the significant cost associated with maintaining it. While some believe that constructing coastal barriers will provide safety, Stacker Pentecost, the program's leader, argues that world leaders are making a grave error. Despite Pentecost's assertion that the program remains functional, it has been moved to Hong Kong and provided with 8 months of funding before its permanent retirement. Raleigh is working on a wall near Sitka, Alaska, when he catches a TV report about a kaiju breaching the wall around Sydney Harbor in Australia. Luckily, a Jaeger called Striker Eureka was present in the vicinity and managed to defeat the creature, although it had been relocated to Hong Kong earlier. Raleigh is taken aback when a helicopter lands near his work site, and Pentecost asks him to accompany him. Despite his initial hesitation to rejoin the Jaeger program, Pentecost persuades him that he is meant to be a pilot. After being transported to the Hong Kong base, also called the Shatterdome, Raleigh encounters Mako Mori. Mako informs Raleigh that she has analyzed his techniques from his time serving as a Jaeger pilot, but Raleigh observes that she appears uneasy. During Pentecost's introduction to Raleigh, he meets 2 scientists who are under his command. The first scientist, Dr. Newton Geisler, is an enthusiastic follower of kaiju and investigates the creatures from a biological perspective by examining their recovered organs and other body parts. The second scientist, Dr. Gottlieb, is a more pragmatic individual who utilizes his mathematical expertise to determine the frequency of the creature's appearance through the ocean rift. The Shatterdome houses a group of Jaegers and their crews consisting of the three-pilot Crimson Typhoon, from China, Cherno Alpha, from Russia, Striker Eureka, recently returned from Australia, and Gypsy Danger, which surprised Raleigh as she had been reconstructed and upgraded for even more rigorous battles after her encounter 5 years ago. Raleigh inquires from Pentecost about the nature of their strategy. Pentecost clarifies that they are devising a plan to deploy a nuclear weapon in the interdimensional rift. The objective is to obliterate the rift and impede any future kaiju incursions. Despite previous unsuccessful attempts to target the rift, the program's commanders are optimistic that their plan will succeed this time around, provided that all the remaining Jaegers attack in unison. Pentecost, Geisler, and Gottlieb discuss the kaiju threat. Gottlieb predicts an increase in the number of kaiju, while Geisler wants to drift with a kaiju brain to learn more about them. However, Pentecost decides to follow Gottlieb's research instead of letting Geisler test his theory. Raleigh needs a new co-pilot for the Jaeger Gypsy Danger after his brother dies. Mako criticizes Raleigh during training but impresses him during a sparring match. Raleigh wants Mako as his co-pilot, but their boss, Pentecost, refuses until a last-minute decision. During a test run, Mako gets locked into a tragic memory and almost sets off the Jaeger's plasma cannon within the Shatterdome. After the incident, Raleigh gains a deeper insight into the backgrounds of Mako and Pentecost. Mako lost her family to a kaiju attack in Tokyo during her childhood and was saved by Pentecost, who piloted a Jaeger that defeated the creature just as it was about to kill her. Despite Mako's loss of focus during the drift, Raleigh still desires her as his partner, but once again faces rejection from Pentecost. Dr. Geisler connects to the kaiju brain using a crude machine, but the experience is overwhelming, so his colleague Gottlieb shuts it down. Geisler tells Pentecost that he saw the other side of the portal and that the kaiju are cloned creatures, which supports his earlier theory. However, the kaiju brain is damaged, so Geisler needs a fresher one to learn more. Pentecost sends him to Hong Kong to find a man named Hannibal Chow. Geisler meets Chow, an American dealer in kaiju who collects and sells them on the black market. Geisler is impressed by Chow's collection and wants an intact brain for his research. Chow refuses, stating that a kaiju's skull is too thick to penetrate, and the brain becomes useless when contaminated with ammonia. Geisler suggests using a secondary brain, but Chow warns him that connecting to the other side can be dangerous and reveals his own injury from drifting with a kaiju brain. 2. Category 4. Kaijus emerge near Hong Kong and Pentecost sends out Jaegers to fight them. One kaiju has acid in its throat that melts away one Jaeger's armor, while the other defeats another Jaeger by ripping off its head. The larger kaiju defeats the third Jaeger by crushing their reactor and drowning both pilots. The pilots of Striker Eureka ignore orders to protect Hong Kong and engage the kaiju, but their Jaeger gets disabled by an EMP burst from a second kaiju. With the Shatterdome's equipment also down, the situation seems dire until Raleigh suggests using the analog Jaeger Gypsy Danger, which is immune to EMPs. Raleigh and Mako go out to destroy the EMP kaiju, while the other one heads toward Hong Kong. Chow and his companions have sought refuge in their bunker, whereas Dr. Geisler has been compelled by Chow to take cover in a communal fallout shelter. Nevertheless, when it appears that the monster has positioned itself right above them, Dr. Geisler becomes anxious that Chow's warning may have been accurate and that the creature could be targeting him. Just then, the ceiling collapses, and the kaiju makes an attempt to reach him, seemingly confirming his fears. At that moment, Gypsy Danger emerges and diverts the attention of the kaiju. They engage in a fierce fight, causing extensive damage to the surrounding buildings. Despite the creature's frozen and shattered tail and ripped acid sac, it surprises them by sprouting enormous wings and lifting the Jaeger into the upper atmosphere. To counter this unexpected turn of events, they employ a new weapon, a massive chain sword, to eliminate the kaiju before plummeting back to Earth. The team barely regains control of the Jaeger and makes a safe landing. Raleigh and Mako receive a warm welcome upon their return to the Shatterdome, with cheers and expressions of gratitude from the Eureka pilots. Amidst the celebratory atmosphere, Raleigh observes Pentecost slightly bleeding from his nostrils. In a private conversation, Pentecost reveals that during the early days of the Jaeger program, protection against nuclear contamination was not a priority, and his health has been deteriorating as a result. In the meantime, Geisler returned to Chow and demanded possession of the secondary brain of the deceased kaiju. Chow's men made an attempt to retrieve it, but found it to be damaged and unusable. However, they stumbled upon a startling revelation. The kaiju was actually pregnant before losing contact with Chow. Suddenly, a newborn kaiju emerges from a slit in its mother's corpse, attempting to flee before succumbing to its umbilical cord and choking. Chow takes pleasure in the creature's demise, convinced that it would not survive long without its mother. However, to everyone's surprise, the infant kaiju suddenly stands up and swallows Chow whole, before dying in the middle of the street. Dr. Gottlieb arrives in Hong Kong with Geisler's machine and volunteers to drift with the other scientists to gain more knowledge through the infant kaiju's brain, despite the risks. Plans are made to deploy Gypsy Danger and Striker Eureka to deliver the warhead to the undersea rift. Herc Hansen's father is unable to pilot Striker due to a broken arm, leaving Herc without a partner. Pentecost takes the role, despite the danger that could prove fatal. As the two Jaegers approach the rift, Geisler and Gottlieb hurry into the control room of the Shatterdome to convey that the plan will not succeed. The interdimensional channel only permits a kaiju to enter, which explains why previous efforts to destroy the channel with nuclear weapons have failed. If they attempt to drop the warhead into the channel, it will merely bounce off the breach. The two Jaegers engage in a fight against two Category 4 kaiju that are guarding the rift and then face a bigger and more potent Category 5 kaiju that emerges. During the battle, both Gypsy Danger and Striker Eureka suffer severe damage. As a result, Striker Eureka detonates the bomb to eliminate the defending kaiju and provide Gypsy Danger with a chance to enter the rift. Once inside, Raleigh and Mako intend to detonate Gypsy's nuclear reactor and destroy the rift. Gypsy Danger connects itself to the Category 5 kaiju and plunges into the rift, evading the code that would reject any non-kaiju. In the kaiju dimension, Raleigh launches Mako in a life pod and manually sets off the nuclear core's detonation. Raleigh ejects from Gypsy Danger in his own pod as it enters the other dimension and explodes, sealing the rift and ending the kaiju threat permanently. The two pods surface on the Pacific Ocean, and Raleigh initially appears dead but soon regains consciousness, much to Mako's delight. In a mid-credits scene, it is revealed that Hannibal Chow managed to survive being devoured by the infant kaiju by slicing his way out with a pocket knife. He appears agitated and demands to know the whereabouts of a lost shoe. Thanks for watching.